Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to all our participants and others who are here. And also, we hope we have some people on Zoom. Our first item on our agenda is to adopt the agenda. So do I hear a motion to adopt our work session agenda as written?
So moved.
Thank you. Bill, second? Second. Tony, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move on. We've got a lot to do today. Our first order of business today is a presentation by Jim Hendricks with Smart Earth Technology. Jason, would you explain what this is about and introduce our speaker?
Mr. Hendricks came into the office about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we had a very good discussion about some new technology, or at least it'd be new technology for the city, where it uses cellular LTE-M, I think I'm saying that right. And it's basically a way to read the meters where the information is sent through a cellular, and we can get our information much more quickly than we can through actually having to ride through the city. Mr. Hendricks is with Smart Earth Technology, and he requested the opportunity, and we thought it would be a good idea for him to come in today and talk to you all a little bit about his product and how the city could potentially benefit from this product. So if it's okay.
Right now, Jason, excuse me, our city checks water and leakage once a month.
That's correct. We have a piece of equipment where we actually have an employee that will ride through basically all the city streets, and it picks up the readings off of each individual meter. That's done once a month. With this technology, it can be sent directly to the city without having to do that. And then I'll let Mr. Hendricks kind of explain, but it would be a potential improvement of what we have now.
I see most of you have found the folders in front of you. I'm going to kind of flip through this for reference. On the left-hand side is going to be the side that I'm going to start with, so you guys can follow along a little bit with me. So Smart Earth Technologies, also called SET, is based in Carlsbad, California, although we are in process now of starting to manufacture products in Atlanta. So we are bringing some of our jobs and some of our manufacturing here to Georgia. Our solution is a full turnkey, what they call advanced metering infrastructure system. It's a turnkey system to collect and manage your metering data. It starts out with, we've got a couple of hardware pieces that go in the field, and then some excellent software solutions that you work with from the office to receive and manage the data. So it starts out with, this is our endpoint. So this endpoint here would go on each of the water meters, and this endpoint will talk to the cell towers, report your data every single day. So that right there is one of the big things, is right now you get a glimpse of what happened on each account once a month, but you don't have any visibility in between there. So somebody has a leak or something like that, you really don't see it till they have a high leak, till they have a problem. If somebody's out of town or something like that, you certainly can't see it ahead of time to help them know that there's something going on at the residence. Now with this, we'll see information coming from the meters every single day. So you have a lot more information coming in. So these endpoints are designed to last 20 years. You have a 20-year warranty, 10-year 100%, 10 years prorated. And when you buy this product, there's something that's rather unique in the industry, or with most things. It comes with lifetime cellular service. It comes with lifetime hosted software in the cloud, lifetime updates for that software, lifetime support. So when you buy this product, we're the only one in our industry that has a product like this that you can buy. It isn't going to tell you to get in your checkbook every single year and write another check. So once you buy this, there's no annual fees to operate this technology at all. So it's going to read the meter every single hour, and then once a day, it's going to transmit in 24-hourly reads to the head-end software.
reads the meter. It doesn't use the existing piece of equipment that's on there now to transmit it to reading to the.
Correct. We would use this instead of your current method of transmission. That's correct. We'd be upgrading the hardware in the field. Did that answer, or did you have I want to make sure you're not.
Would that mean we don't need those other devices anymore, or would we keep them attached as a backup?
The current drive-by technology for the residential meters would end up being replaced. With new technology, we probably could retrofit this to commercial accounts. If you have some larger commercial accounts, I know this is, your customer base is mostly residential, but if you have a couple larger commercial accounts, you probably can retrofit to those. But for a residential basis, we would be changing what's there. In addition to this, which reads and reports data from the endpoint, we have meters and valves. So I'll start these at one end or the other and pass them down. So this is the first item here is a valve. This is a valve we can remotely operate. So we can do disconnections and reconnections, whether they're seasonal or non-payment, again, remotely without having to roll trucks. That valve actually has three positions. It has on, off, or trickle flow. Some places find the trickle flow a sanitary way. If you had a non-payment customer, you could put it on trickle. They'd have enough they could wash their hands and take their pills at night. They wouldn't have enough to run the dishwasher, the shower, or the laundry. So it still would provide plenty of motivation to reconnect the water service, but the trickle would give them some sanitary capability in the meantime. But it can go on, off, or trickle flow. And again, that would also be.
This is an either or.
So you would have this hooks up to that, and that's the new water meter. And then that fits in the replacement for your existing water meter along. It'll fit in the same spot without any
So we
replacement.
need all of that.
So where does the endpoint come in on it?
The endpoint will come off of a wire and go up and mount in the meter box lid.
Okay.
If they do have an option where everything's built together, that's two separate.
The valve and the meter will come assembled. You got, those won't have.
The valve has a transmitter in it as well.
This one,
Transmitter, so and the valve right there, you don't need the
We can transmit
need
from the
this.
valve, or if we don't have the valve, we can.
Or maybe it's the fingers. How about if you place the order?
I was just using some,
Oh.
I'm sorry.
The water meters are a little bit different. So right now you have mechanical water meters. These are ultrasonic water meters. So these are solid state meters. This is a more advanced technology than you currently have for metering. The mechanical meters typically take about a quarter gallon per minute to register flow. These will start registering flow at 0.01 gallons per minute. And they'll hit their accuracy standard at 0.05 gallons per minute. So they're going to be more sensitive to low flows than your current technology, which should help improve accountability for some of the low flows going on out there. They also are rated to higher pressure. So these are rated to 300 PSI compared to 150. So if you're in the mountains, you've got some up and downs. Usually mountain towns have some more higher pressures to deal with than cities in other areas. These are rated for high pressure. And your old meters give you a reading off of the meter, and that's all they give you. This will give you water temperature. It'll give you the rate of flow that the water was used at, and it will give you some extra alerts, such as an empty pipe. If somebody actually removed the water meter and put in a straight pipe instead of the water meter, it'll give you some extra alerts. So we're getting data more often, and we're getting more types of data than you would get before.
Mr. Hendricks, you said it's water temperature. Does that clue in anything about it freezing, and does it shut it off, or?
It doesn't shut it off, but it helps you identify stuff. If you run a report based on the water temperature, you can look at accounts that are at risk surface is freezing that you might want to address before you have a broken service. So to help you see things like that, and certainly you can correlate if there was freezing temperatures and you had a break, you can kind of tell what happened as well. But one of the main advantages is the fact that you can see the ones that are getting close to a problem before that occurs. So on the other side of things, I've got some software information. So one of the first things we have is district metering, DMA water loss analysis. So that means we can take your incoming water supply going into the city water system and then look at all the consumption for all the water sold to your residents, and we can compare the two. And this will be available on an everyday basis in your system. So you can see what pumped into your system, what you sold, and then the difference between those is your water loss. Visibility for water loss on a daily basis, which is a very nice tool. The next page.
Ultrasonic beam. What does ultrasonic mean?
So it literally uses ultrasonic technology to measure the rate of flow of the water.
What's ultrasonic technology?
It sends sound waves upstream and downstream, and then it calculates based on how long it takes that sound wave to get from one end of the sensor to the other end of the sensor, going upstream and downstream. That way you know the rate of flow and you know how much is going through the meter.
You know the rate of flow because you know the pressure.
You know how long it's taking for that signal to go upstream and then sends it right back downstream. You know how long it's taking it to go, or how long it takes to get back. And that gives that, based on calculations, that will give them the rate of flow for that water.
So it's not listening to the water moving. It's
Sending a sound signal.
sending a sound signal down. How far upstream does it go?
Oh, just
It's
within
inside
the
the
meter.
meter.
Just,
Just
okay,
point
it's
to
all
point
inside.
inside the meter,
Thank you.
and then by measuring that, the time it takes going with the flow and the time it takes going against the flow, it's able to determine the rate of flow.
Got it. Very cool.
The next page kind of shows a sample chart of this is what you have in the office when you look up a particular account. So right now, for customer has,
Can I stop you there? Our public works supervisor here, he has a question.
Stand up, James.
Yeah, Jason, yeah, come on,
It's
Jason,
not,
a little
it's not
closer.
picking you up.
We're old and can't hear you.
What he's talking about, right now on the water, we're like 60% where our water loss is. We can only tell right now by our figures every 30 days. This will help us do it every day. Help us get our water loss down. Very important. We need to.
Because you can identify where the leak is that what you're saying? Or-
With this technology, yes, it will show areas in the city where most water is being used.
yes, so, and you'll be able to see your water loss every single day. So you can also see where there's changes in your water loss, which might indicate leaks to go look for, and things like that.
Instead of looking all over the city, the full 28 miles, it's in from here. That way we're not struggling to find. So, we'll get on quick.
Thank you, James.
So, James, it can do that without adding any meters, any additional meters, except at the home. Without adding any additional meters anywhere in any of our lines.
Well, it
You're
depends.
replacing them. Well,
So if you want to subdivide it to be able to look at it in smaller sections, you might choose to put some meters to separate section from section. So you'll definitely be able to look at the whole system and track your water loss in the whole system every day. You probably have different pressure zones in your system now, and you probably can divide it. Depends on how your water, I don't have enough schematic information about your water system to know if we already have delineated zones for your water system, or if we would have to put in some zone meters to separate water from zone 1 to zone 2, so we could see water loss in each zone. So you may choose to use, it has some value whether you add some additional meters or not, but there is a case where you might choose to add some meters to get more granularity in that data, to be able to see more precisely where the water loss is occurring. So
James, would we coordinate zones with our wells, or how would that work?
Well, all your wells basically pump to one location.
Yep.
Okay,
Then it's distributed out.
okay.
So, the advantage on putting them in the wells, which we go every day, 5 days a week, and we have meters in there. So we get everything out. And that's how we can work with pump each day.
So we
At
wouldn't
least we'll
need
be
to
able to
attach
do it.
anything if we go with the system through our wells?
Right.
Would we need to attach anything to our wells?
If
go
we
with-
want to pull it up from City Hall, yes. To have everything working
But
together.
it would just be one of those transmitters possibly.
Something like this?
Yes.
Attaching that.
That way she can pull up everything right there at City Hall.
So we know if the well's having the problem.
And for the reading the meters, I mean, you're talking 3.5, 4 hours, half a day. We're going to drive all the way from the city. This here, at least we'll be able to set it up there for this, for everything that's like that, nobody else can do that.
Will the consumer be able to pull up their own data?
they will. I'm going to get to that in just a second.
Say,
Questions are more than welcome as we go. In this case, let's just wait till we get to that one, because that one's coming.
All right, I'll show them.
No, this is all good conversation. So this shows kind of a sample of what the screen looks like. I guess I want you guys to understand what this typically means. So right now, if a customer calls in and they've had a leak or they have a high bill they don't understand, they call in, you look up and you're like, yeah, your consumption this month was way higher than last month. Then they have to take the customer's information, hang up. Somebody probably goes out, visits the meter, maybe collects some data from the meter, looks to see if the meter, if the water's flowing, to see if it could be a leak, things like that. They come back, they have a conversation at City Hall to sort out what they saw, and then you call the customer back. There's a lot of steps, a lot of time and effort every time you get one of those calls. With this, when you get the call, all the information for what's going on in that account is right there at a click of a mouse. It's right there in front of the staff. You can pull it up while you're talking to the customer. You can export it and email it to the customer right there on the spot. Then when you hang up to that call with the customer, you've completed that task without ever stopping, rolling the truck, coming back and calling the customer back. So it really, really makes it a much more efficient process to help your customers and to tell what's going on. So there is a dashboard with lots of widgets on it that help you track communication and system health, make sure everything's working right. On the next page, you see alerts and subscriptions. So this goes a little bit to what you're saying, but not exactly. Well, there's another step that takes it even farther. But this is for the alerts, like you can have a continuous flow alert, which is a probable leak. So you can see those at Town Hall, but you can also, if you input an email address or a cell phone, you can have messages relating to that alert go directly to the homeowner. Any of the alerts can be subscribed to as shown on here, again, by cell phone, text message, or by email to staff internally or to end customers directly.
That's real time.
That's as we get it. So like for a leak, you'll typically look at continuous flow over a period of time to determine it's a leak. So we won't catch a leak the instant it starts. We'll notice your typical water use is on and off, on and off. So your usage zero. We'll notice that it's not going to zero anymore, that water's running continuously. And that'll help us identify that it's a leak. And then you can completely customize how much flow per hour do I want to see before it sends a flag and how much time. The minimum amount of time would typically be 24 hours continuous, but sometimes those 24-hour things might resolve themselves. Sometimes you might wait 48 hours or before you trigger that flag and let the things that'll solve themselves solve it. And then when you get that flag, and only have to respond to things that aren't solving themselves. There are a wide range of reports. This will send the readings directly into your Black Mountain billing software. We will have to do an interface for that to Black Mountain to send the data for billing into there, but that is easily done. So you'll be able to report on your usage customer by customer. If you have a property owner that owns multiple properties, you can create a group and generate reports for all of his properties together instead of having to look at them one at a time. And then this is the slide that kind of goes to what you were speaking about, the customer. This solution also comes with a consumer portal. And this way you can give your customer, has to provide an email address to sign up for that. That will become their unique user ID because emails are always unique. And we will link that to their customer data, and they will be able to log in and see their usage on a daily basis anytime they want to through that app. And that can also be a portal for messaging the customer they can sign up for leak alerts through that app as well. So the consumer portal is often for, in this industry, that's often an add-on at huge cost. The consumer portal is at no extra charge. So that is available and can be utilized as the town would like at your discretion. In the software also, there's a lot of tutorials built into the software, things that if you go to the help center, there'll be a lot of write-ups or videos that tell you how to do different things in the system, how to use the system. But there's also a chat with us button that you can get live, click on that and get a live customer support rep to help with any questions that you have or how to do something. The installation of the devices is very simple. We use an install app that is actually available on the Google Play Store. It works on an Android device. You see a picture of the screen there as you look at it. When you click on the meter tab, that'll validate communication with the water meter. When you hit the comms tab, that'll validate communication with the cell tower. You hit assign to premise, that links that particular piece of hardware with your customer database in your billing system. You'll take photos. So you see some sample photos. So if you change out a water meter, you actually have a picture of the final read of the old meter and a picture of the new meter that went in. So you have records of that. That's stored in the cloud in the software. You'll hit capture location. You'll grab the GPS coordinates of that, and you'll upload and push it all up into our software in the cloud. So very user friendly, but some really nice features.
What about the Apple platform? It's only Android?
Right now, it's only Android. We probably will put it out on Apple. There's a reason why it's not already on Apple, but there's something that we do that is was not as good a fit to on the Apple platform. Apple's got a lot of restrictions on how things are done, but so right now it's not on Apple. That probably will change in the future, but as of today,
How
it's
about
Android.
access just on the computer?
Hmm?
Just if you want to access it on the computer.
So all of the data that once it goes up in the cloud will be available on the computer, but when we're working in the field directly with that device, we'll need an Android device. And that could be a phone or just like a Samsung Galaxy tablet, which it's not a $10,000 piece of equipment, it's a couple $100 tablet. But that is, but unless you're working in the field, everything on the office side, any computer with internet access, as long as you have the right login credentials, you can work from home, from the office. You don't have any locally installed software. Everything's in the cloud. Yes, sir.
New meter, battery powered.
It is. It's got a 20-year warranty. Again, 100% warranty for the first 10 years and prorated years 11 through 20.
Data on battery life.
Well, the type of lithium chloride batteries that we're using in both the endpoint and the water meter have been in the water industry for a long time. So there is quite a bit of history on those batteries.
How long will it last?
It's 20 years.
The batteries?
Yeah.
Batteries are there, these three devices.
So you will have either a battery in this or this, not both. And then there is a battery in that. So you'll have, so if we're doing the disconnect valves, you'll have one in the valve and one in the meter. If I'm not doing the valve, I'll have one in the meter and one in the other. There will be two. Yeah. So you can buy meters with endpoints that will read, but then I don't have any remote turn off, turn on capabilities. Or I can buy the meter with the valve, and then now I get readings, plus I can remotely turn it on and off as well. So there's two different options on how you guys can deploy this. And it doesn't have to be 100%. So you know you have a certain amount of seasonal customers that you know you're turning on and off every year. You have a certain amount of repeat offenders for non-payment that you're turning on and off a year. So those are all truck rolls that you could automate if you want to. And that's strictly at what the town feels is most advantageous.
I don't know how old our meters are. James? Are the meters on our homes the original ones they were built with, or have they been replaced somewhere along the way? Year later now,
Since the assembly.
James, you need to, James, come up and sit up here someplace so we can pick you up on our.
So you'd be on the owl.
It's been very diplomatic.
Our meters were replaced, probably 10 years ago, registered replaced 4 to 5 years ago, I believe. Those registered went bad, we had some bad homes go bad. And we did replace the register.
Didn't we have to replace the batteries?
That was part of it. Was that went bad. Yeah, y'all weren't counting on that.
Mark said you was trying to decide what.
James, this is a question that would involve James too. Someone needs to turn their water on after hours. Android device will allow them to do that.
That's for utility use. We won't allow a customer to do it themselves.
I was thinking,
But his
Everything's
team,
on call.
yes,
yes.
Whoever's on call can do
Yes.
it from home.
yeah, so you can do it for either by cell signal, or you can do it locally with a tablet through the Android app, either way.
You can save on overtime. We'll pay overtime 4 hours for coming in. You know, if they get a call on the weekend, say Saturday, you know, we pay 4 hours for them to come in. That's not more than
Right.
10 to 15 minutes. So you pay 4 hours for coming up. So we actually-
Save time during the regular workday also.
Oh, yeah, it'll save a lot of time.
Of course, James, right now, I think that overtime, the intent is that the customer should be paying for it.
I know we were kind of on a limited time frame. So that's kind of the, I guess, the short version of the technology, if you have any more questions. And then depending upon, if you'd like to talk about cost, Blake has some cost numbers, if you'd like to dig into that side. I guess, is there any more questions about the product in general?
How long has it been in use?
So it's been around for 8 years.
Okay.
What else does Core Maine do other than this one?
Core Maine, we're the largest water distributor in the country. We sell fire hydrants, meters, valves, fittings, repair plans, everything. So,
One more comment on when you were asking how long we're around. The platform that this is on is LTE-M. So LTE-M, the M stands for machine. And this is a platform that was developed jointly by the cell phone carriers for hardware devices that are to get other devices connected. So you look at the market for the cell phone industry, they're saturated for users having a cell phone. Everybody's already got a phone. It really can't add a whole lot more users. A few more will age in every year and they can steal from each other. But really the way they can add growth is by connectable devices. The platform that we're on is the platform that the cellular carriers are growing their business on. This is where they're adding the hardware device type of things. And the technology in here is not, because it's LTE-M, which is that cellular developed platform. There's literally millions of devices operating with LTE-M for various applications out there. So this isn't something that is only used a little bit by just Smartest Technology. We're on a platform that is millions and millions of points deployed using this same technology. So it's a very, very proven platform, I guess.
So is this intended to use existing cellular towers?
Yes.
That would be a problem for us because a lot of our residents, their reception is very, very poor. We have one cell tower.
Does that depend on what service, that cell service they're on?
So we could take a look at that and dig into your specific coverage. We have the ability to add a microcell to add coverage. There is a cost to add that, but you know, one of the key platforms on this is you put in the endpoint and it reads through third-party owned and maintained infrastructure. So the microcell devices, we can for a fee tell AT&T where we want one. AT&T will install it, monitor it, and they will take care of it. So there won't be any ongoing cost to adding coverage, but there would be one-time cost.
AT&T service.
Huh?
No AT&T service here, it's only Verizon.
Have a
Jim, explain
Verizon
the
tower.
difference on how it's transmitting compared to like pictures or other data. If you go.
Yeah,
far.
it is different than your cell phone. So when you're on your cell phone, you're carrying voice, you can send pictures, you can stream video, you can do all those sorts of things. We're on a band that is a machine band that is only sending data bits. There's no voice, there's no photos, there's no streaming video. It's kind of like sometimes you can send a text when you can't make a phone call, but it's even more than that. It does have a different send and receive capability than what you would have on your handset.
That being said, you know, one of the mountains, there's lots of shadows. Cast by the cell tower. Fingers of the mountain go down. Is that something that you can check out in advance? To minimize the number of additional cell boosters or whatever?
To a degree, there may be cases where we can't tell in advance until they're in field some. So that's, we can see to a degree if there's any places, but I can't guarantee coverage without going to field.
Y'all can provide like a coverage map of what we think would be there.
I haven't seen a coverage map. You may have.
We have it.
Yeah, okay.
Y'all want to talk about pricing? Save the best for last?
Yeah.
I would have gave it to you up front, but y'all might have been looking at it the whole time, right? So, I'll give y'all all some pricing notes, and this is just an estimate, so once we fine tune numbers and things of that nature, we can update this as well.
Jason,
We got a couple options.
how many water customers do we have?
Yes, we're talking about pricing, I could hold it up. So we provided two options for you right there. Option one has 100 of these units right here that have the shut off valve, right? And option two has all these units for your residential. Now, I don't know how many large meters you have, but let's say it's 25 or something. We estimated 700 meters, I think, in your system. So we're saying 675 normal residential meters and 25 larger meters that we could just add the endpoint to right here. So if we're looking at the first option, this is the one with the 100 remote disconnect option. The first one, the 700, is just this unit right here. The second line items, the 100, would be the valve, meter, transmitter combo right here.
Sorry, say that again.
The second line item is the valve, meter, endpoint all in one, which is this unit right here.
That's the shut off valve.
Yeah. Shut off valve. The third option, or the third line item, I'm sorry, is the meter right here that would plug into this unit. So you might not, like we said, you might not need a remote disconnect in every single house, but if you did, that would be a less expensive option to go that way. And then some installation estimates, and then adding an endpoint to an existing large meter that may already be compatible to just hook the transmit to. And then we got some tablet cost in there for Android tablets so that y'all can activate in the field and audit in the field too. And then, so if you look at all that, the first option would be about $308,175. If you just do a 4% over 10 years, you're looking at like a $3,120 payment. And then the second option is all remote disconnects for your small meters. If that makes sense. So it would be all these units for your 675 and just this unit for your, say, 25 large meters.
Just that, what,
Your large meters. So if we're not replacing the meter, but we can just say add this to it because it may be compatible already. I think y'all have octave meters, which typically have a wire that already comes out of it, which we can either splice, or if it has the NICOR connector, we can just plug it in. The NICOR connector is industry standard. That's a waterproof connection.
but we couldn't do just those alone.
Can't do just those alone at the house because the master meter, the register, the transmitter is built into the register.
Y'all have 10+ years on those meters, from what I understand correctly. They're getting some age on them, the residential meters, correct?
From my understanding how master warranty works, it's 10 years full and that's it, right? Even the replacement one that you get, that's all better than the additional. So y'all are almost, if your meters are 10 years old, you're probably almost already out on your master.
Could you clarify for me these contingency items?
Yeah, so the contingency items are items we see during installation that we run into that we don't know how many you're gonna have out there and don't know what we're gonna run into, right? We get out to the field, a curb stop won't shut off and we need to replace that curb stop, right? Because we're changing out the meter, can't get it to shut off. These are just labor only items for those type of things. If we need a hole in the lid, for like a plastic lid, I don't know if y'all are mostly plastic or so, drilling a hole in a lid to put this endpoint to. The more we get this out of the pit, right, the better it has to transmit, especially on a day like today when it's raining.
As far as going and putting these in existing meter boxes, you shouldn't have an issue because it's the same lately, so they're pulling out.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have to replumb anything. You should just be able to take the old meter out and do it in. So, same way.
And we do have a composite lid cost in there for the all remote disconnects because we need a plastic lid, but if you already got it, then we don't need that. So we could fine tune these numbers as well.
I thought I understood the difference between option 1 and option 2. You wrote that was remote disconnect.
For option 1, we only included 100 remote disconnects. So you might not need that remote disconnect on every house, right? You might just need it on your seasonal houses, or when we were talking at City Hall, y'all had some really hard to get to where you had to hold on to a rope or something to get there. So we talked about maybe put those in there as well. Absolutely.
And that's part of our personnel qualifications. You must be able to swing from a tree and get to the meter. Isn't that right, James? And it will solve it.
My son would love it probably to get to mine. Any other questions on the pricing?
Just the difference in between option 1 and 2 is simply how many of the remote disconnection you got.
Right. If you want to do all your residential with remote disconnect, all your 5/8 by 3/4, that would be option 2. If you only want to do 100, that'd be option 1.
See, option 2 is the transmitter and the meter in one. So you don't have this on this meter.
I see, okay. Yeah.
on the remote disconnect.
That answers it.
Okay.
Let me ask a
What did you
question.
say,
You-
Gary?
Yeah.
Option two is 675 of these. Option one is only 100 of these, and then 575 of these. That makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Jason, did you have anything else, questions or?
Did, I think the other day in our meeting, you mentioned that Raven County Water Authority is doing a pilot program.
Yes, sir.
Could you provide any information to the council about how that's going?
I would say we just started it that day that we were in the meeting with y'all, so it's only been 2 or 3 weeks. But in the meantime, we've gotten
City of Royston
City of Royston and also to participate in the pilot.
and Hart County as well.
Yeah.
So that is another option. We do have a pilot out there. It's $1,500. You get 5 of transmitters, all of the software, tablet, so you can test the system.
Raven is trying both the endpoint on some,
So Raven got,
meters and endpoints, and also trying some of the valves, we're trying both ways.
I'm sorry, guys, I'm having a real.
No,
tough
you're
time
good.
Hearing you, we got the air
Absolutely.
handler going in the background, and if you guys could maybe stand up. or-
Yeah,
Raven's doing a pilot, which is 5 of these units that can attach to some of their large meters where they can see what's feeding in at different, where they sell, like the city of Clayton and other places. They're also trying out 2 of these units, for some places that they have to remote this or to disconnect, pretty regularly. But they're trying those out. I would say there's a private system in Savannah that's got about 27,000 of this unit out there. And the city of Valdosta is also doing, most of the remote disconnect and this unit right here. The city of Valdosta is about 22,000, I think, meters.
23,000.
How long does the pilot program last, like?
As long as you bought the units, so it lasts 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, everything you buy comes with the same thing, so even if you buy only a few to try it out, you still get the head-end software in the cloud for the life of that product, whether you buy any more or not.
That comes with the tablet. and all the
software.
One tablet, yeah.
One tablet, okay.
You guys have any knowledge as to whether these cities that are using the product, whether they were able to find any grants to help fund it?
A lot of cities are through GFA are able to find some grants. Or usually it's in the Clean Water Drinking Fund, I think, where they got two funds that they pull out of. But sometimes there's a grant there. Usually I've seen it go from 40 to 20% based on how many projects GFA has that year that approves for the discount.
No discount for being old.
We might be able to see, so, hey, I don't have any hair left either.
Old
That's gotta
system
be a
and
new
old.
one.
One of the things I'm curious about, and I don't know if it's our job to figure this out or maybe give some help, but how much of this, first of all, I don't know what the total cost is because there's a bunch of contingent items. And I understand that. And we need to talk about whether or not we want to, we sell seasonal houses to people that turn them into full time. So I don't know if it's better to just take care of that problem up front. We're getting more and more retirees, and who knows what the future of second homes is. But so there's a couple of things that keep us from knowing right now what the total cost is. But we're expecting a part of the cost, and I don't know how much it costs. That's what I'm trying to figure out. But you can help us with how much of the cost savings we would realize that we could use to pay for the system.
How much does it cost to roll a truck to go investigate something like that on average?
I mean, you're taking somebody on this side of the valley, they've got to go on up in the ridge roll. Get out there and get back. That's like, it's the weekend, he's paying 4
24 hours old. You know, for them to come up here, yeah, or if it's going online. I mean, it's gonna take time to do like, say it again, James.
I think in time, it's pay for itself and labor, but you know, it's just gonna take time. It ain't gonna pay for itself.
Right,
in
oh,
years.
oh, absolutely.
But,
Plus it's safe in some of the hard to reach areas like we talked about. It's a safe option for you guys.
So I think it's incumbent on us. That's from Jason. We really need to do a ROI comparison, cost versus savings here. Quantify what we know historically. It's costing us overtime, man hours, et cetera, et cetera. Run that out. We can do it 10 years, we can do it 5 years, whatever we choose. Horizon to be, and that will give us a good starting point for our conversations of what we
I don't,
yeah, and the water law.
I don't have enough information offhand to know exactly what the amount of ROI will be, but I certainly can help with where the ROI will occur. With operational savings from truck rolls, with increased accuracy, where we'll provide more accountability for the water, with reducing your water loss, because your water loss is a very expensive issue. So I can help these guys with identifying these are the categories that'll come in.
That would be very helpful, yes, and I think that's probably our
That's the
next
key.
step.
I think I heard you say that the pool meters, it takes about 4 gallons to flow through them before it starts.
And on your old meters also, I'll tell you this, on the old meters, once so many gallons go through it, it shuts off, it quits reading. It will absolutely stop if it's a big flow.
So do you think,
So you're losing water there, and we don't know how much comes through it. We have half the forest here,
that's exactly where I was going. Thank you.
and, you know, it's water loss. We don't know how much comes through it. I mean, we've looked, and I've even had to get police involved there, good to help us in their hunt relations. But we're all over the city trying to find them. We've hunted one for 2 weeks. We've put 100,000 gallons a day. And we finally found it was a lot louder than they even was there. It was more, it showed on plans. That's why I'm saying this system can really help cut down on the labor and the water.
And through our EPD permit, we are committed to reduce our
Yeah.
water loss also.
Yeah.
That's part of the deal,
Yeah, man.
so that we can sell water. Okay. Any other questions of these fine gentlemen?
Just the question. Implementation, it sounds like we could implement this gradually. We didn't have to do it all in one big fell swoop. We could have 2 different systems and gradually reduce the labor of reading as it is with the new. So might be a lot of ways to implement this in a way that would make it more affordable. That's my
The pace
conclusion.
of the project would be at your discretion, so you're completely correct.
Of course, we'd have to understand the costs well enough so that we can develop those alternatives.
It's a great way for you guys to see the system and start a pilot.
Say what?
A great way to start, see the system operate, is starting with a pilot, like Raven County, Park County, and Oyster are doing. Putting 5 in. You have all that data that you can consider, or we could put it in some of the areas you're worried about the coverage.
Anything else, Sean? Thank you all very much for driving up here.
You're welcome.
and giving
Absolutely,
us
thank
this.
y'all.
And we'll
Thank
be,
you for having
we will
us.
be in touch and probably have 20 more million questions.
Okay.
That sounds good. We're here to answer.
Thank you.
Sounds like a fantastic system.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. And y'all be careful driving out of here and back home.
Definitely do.
We need citizen feedback useful. Sure. Some people jump on this right now.
we just, you have
Serious water problems.
We'll encourage them to watch the video in case, obviously, if they're not here. Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Yeah. Jason, do we have anybody on Zoom that has any comments or questions?
Madam Mayor, I don't see anybody.
Okay,
We have several people on.
okay,
But
but no questions or
I do
comments.
not see anything in the
Great,
chat.
thank you very much. All right, let's move on. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on to item 4, which is discuss change to the burn ordinance. I do not see Chief James here. Which one we do?
I
James?
believe I can briefly
Okay.
talk about this.
All right.
This was given to us about a month ago, and essentially, you have one page of a mini-page ordinance, and it talks about additional conditions for outdoor burning. And essentially what this does, it just removes some of the wording where the State Forestry Commission has to give the okay or a blessing to get a burn permit. It just defaults to the city. So it's really not a lot of changes, but it would require a change to remove that. So it's,
Where did this come from?
this, well, it was brought to me by Moody Derrick, but I presume it was brought to me in a hard copy format. And I presume it came from the Sky Valley State Fire Department. I did reach out to the chief. I thought he was going to be here, but anyway,
Oh, you meant fire chief.
yes.
Sorry.
It's more of just a removing of wording. It just puts the permitting of the city itself. Where in the past, it's been a city in concert with the Forestry Commission. So that's really the only change.
Okay.
So it's just, I know we're just talking about things during this work session, but that is something that we probably want to bring before you all in the very near future to formally make that change.
In the past, did people actually get a permit from the State Forestry Commission before that?
We don't allow burning.
Probably not.
Define what burden from it covers.
I think Ms. Fleming was one.
Let Karen.
Karen.
Yeah, we would go in on their website to see if it was okay to get a burn permit, because they looked at the weather conditions for the area. And so we would have to get an okay from them before we would be able to submit a permit to burn. So we was in conjunction with the state or with the forestry.
So it sounds like if it moves to the city approval, we also have to have a corresponding process online for checking the weather, et cetera, right?
That may be, yes, that may be something that we may need to add. I haven't had the issue one since I've been here, so I'm a little in the dark on that, but we can certainly do that if we need to.
I would just suggest that we clearly, if it falls to the city to issue the permit without consulting with the forestry department, we just need to have, I would say, a defined process of how that happens.
Conversely, I'd like to hear from the fire chief, why he's recommending this change.
We'll make sure that he's in, certainly before you all have to submit this to a vote. But,
Karen, in the past, has it been difficult to get approval from the State Forestry Commission to do that?
No, I mean, most people, I think they use more common sense. If it's really dry, then they don't even ask to do a burn. Since I've been here, I think there's only been one issue. So this isn't something that people normally do because we offer the chipping service. So people, they utilize that service more than trying to do a burn pile and burn it themselves. But I think that the forestry, they opted out of being opted on, right? That's the reason for the change.
That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. Chief is.
The only time, I've been here almost 5 years, the only time we had to revoke one was when we had unexpected gusts and winds in our area. Other than that, it's streamlined like Karen's talking about, but we've only ever revoked one since I've been here, and it was due to wind. But forestry is pretty much not on site up here. They'll call and expect us to be their eyes and ears.
And how many burn permits
have been issued in the last 5 years?
Not as many as should be. A lot of people just burn. And we've had that issue in the past.
I thought we had an ordinance that says
Yeah.
we don't burn.
We do, we have limitations in the city. We have to go like put it out and all that. But a lot of people just aren't aware that they have to, or else they ignore it and claim they didn't. Some of them know better, and some of them know better, but
I understand that one is the forest requirement says burn to be done in 1 day.
yes.
If you don't leave anything burning overnight, you don't have.
Oh, we require for it to be out on 4 o'clock.
Mhm.
When
Even
the city staff leaves and the fire has to be out.
We need to put that in the.
Yeah.
Sky Valley Times.
Yeah.
About several times.
This is a concern that I've had for some time. And I'm not sure that we in Sky Valley want to have the kind of maximum burns that would be permitted. Now, in our ordinances, we had, a builder, doing one home, could build a fire with wood stacked 6 by 6 by 6. Okay, that's a nice bonfire, but okay, that's not bad. The golf course can burn a pile 25 by 25 by 25. That's pretty big. For somebody clearing land for development, you have a massive burn of 60 by 60. And they don't specify how tall or anything else, but that's done typically in pits. And I don't know a lot about the pits, Jason. And they've got these machines, fans that they put down in, and it to burn it completely. And so there's not a lot of particulate matter, and it's supposed to reduce the smoke. I did a little bit of research a year or so ago, and the feeling I got from people that had experience with this was that was a heck of a burn. And I'm not sure we want to have burns of that size going on in Sky Valley. So that's my concern. So
We can
we would
certainly
be
make
taking this
sure
on, and sometimes, I get the feeling the city could be rolled. And, I don't know.
certainly take that into consideration when we discuss the ordinance. Thank you, Fran. Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Did we answer all your questions, Doug?
I guess, why are they wanting to?
Jason, what's the timeline for, how long do we have to do something on this, or?
There's really there's not been one given. But certainly, I think it's something we could do within the rest of this calendar year.
Because I think we need to probably understand the big burn technology a little better than we do.
What was the reason given?
We need the fire chief to come in and talk about it.
It was dropped off on Friday afternoon.
Is the state trying to get out of?
I don't know. Again, it was just, Mr. Barrett brought this off and said, this has come down the pipeline from the fire department. Y'all need to get it before the council.
We need to probably have the fire chief here and answer all these questions. Okay,
I'll be a little more diligent to make sure he's here. I think he was given notification, but, he'll certainly will make sure they're here, certainly before you all vote on this.
Right. thank you. All right, now we're going to move to item 5, which is discuss changes to the water ordinance. Unfortunately, our city manager's contract demanded that we have assigned him performance goals, and one of those dubious honors is to review and edit our old ordinances. So I'm going to let you take it away, Jason.
Madam Mayor, thank you again. This being a work session, this is really some talking points. I know we're getting on in the time here, so I'm going to go fairly quickly. Yes. If you have any questions, certainly you can ask or catch me later. But again, it's if you look through this, particularly focus on the red line or the red font. Again, just some things that we have found that possibly potentially need to be changed. Metered customers, just changing the reference to make it go back to the fee schedule versus fees itself.
Which page are you on?
I'm on the page that says Article 2 Water System. It's it begins with section 40-19, user classes and water rates. Hopefully, this was pulled from Unicode. It's just, again, this is just for discussion. It's not really. But what I'll do is I'll just talk again. There's several sections in here that it talks about fees, and we just make it where it references back to the fee schedule versus having fees itself in the ordinance. But the very first thing really that I'd like to bring to your attention is the section that talks about the city's responsibility and liability. Apparently, there's been some confusion or interpretation about where the city's responsibility begins or ends and where the customer's responsibility begins and ends. But on item D, this is section 40-27, we have modified the wording. Originally, it said the city shall install and maintain a cutoff valve for all users. We felt a need to kind of clean that up or define that a little better. So the city shall furnish, install, and maintain a homeowner cutoff valve to all users adjacent to the city meter. So again, it just better, really all we're doing there is just better defining how that's done. Again, there's been some interpretation about you have the meter, the homeowner valve, there's about an 18-inch, 2 feet section in between. And apparently in the past, there's been some interpretation that that responsibility, the in-between area falls to the homeowner. Well, the city is the one who installed that homeowner valve. So therefore, the responsibility of the homeowner actually begins where their plumbing connects to the homeowner valve. So just trying to clear that up a little bit.
So that's your recommendation.
Yes, correct. It's a recommendation. That has been from an administrative standpoint, at least the interpretation that I've applied since I've been here, is that no more any issues in between are clearly the city's responsibility. The city's the one who put the homeowner valve in, so obviously we are responsibility for that area between the homeowner valve and the meter. Other things, again, just small incidental things. Now moving to section 40-28.
Can we ask questions?
Yes, sir.
Before you get there, you added in the section A regarding the use of large scale irrigation for excessive uses. I'm just curious how you define incidental watering of household plants and small gardens, starting with the city itself. Front property out there, I would call that a small garden.
Again, it was really, we've had discussions with residents who, the intent is just that, it's for plants. It's not somebody that plants a back acre with crops and things like that. And again, we can look at that, but originally it talks about really limiting or sufficient quantity. It was really just a means to try to kind of type incidental to me is small. And again, obviously the customer's paying for the water. So if they're using a lot of water, that's going to increase their bill. But it was just a way to try to better define that. We can certainly discuss that in the future conversation.
Large scale based on its volume.
We can set some kind of parameter for that. D, we add the word homeowner. Again, that's just to try to clear up any confusion. That is the only change to that paragraph D, is to add the word homeowner. And then G, we add the word electronic radio. That's an important adjective to add. We're trying to emphasize that the customer should not mess with the electronics of that. And then we add the word presently or installed or to be installed. So that just kind of tightens up that definition, that whether you have a meter in the ground now or you plan to have one in the future, you should not mess with it. We added the language, the consumer may have access to the homeowner shut-off valve. However, any damage caused by the consumer in the action to cut on or cut off the homeowner shut-off valve shall be the financial responsibility of the consumer to repair. The homeowner valve is there to give the homeowner the ability to cut the water on and off if they choose to do so without calling into the city and having the meter cut off. Obviously, you need a tool to do that. But if somebody were to use something that's not designed to do that, and they tear that valve up, and it would be upon them to pay to fix that. Any questions with that?
I don't have any questions there, but I want to go back just a second. Go back to the first thing, and it says that the city shall provide water to potential parks free of charge. Do we know where that is? What is that?
Property owners pavilion. Property owners built, belongs to the club now, it's got like a cocaine club.
It's called Peninsula Island.
That's. I'll let Jason answer.
Anybody know where Peninsula Park is?
He just said it's the club pavilion area.
What?
It's the
It
cocaine
used to be, it was built by the residents, but yeah, by the croquet courts.
That probably slipped by, Madam Mayor. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if they're paying water, but that's something that we could.
I think that was a Unicode here.
I was in Unicode there.
Yeah, there were a bunch of them.
Anyway,
You know, James, as far as I know where the cutoff is that goes back there. It's coming off our main water supply, so I can imagine not being paid.
Do you know, James?
Are you talking about for your home valve?
Oh, the club pavilion area.
Well, big.
Uh-huh.
It's on the right of way in the pit.
Right. That's going through the meter.
So it comes through, it comes off the main, comes into a pressure reducing valve, then your meter. But you got two cutoffs in there, one on each side of the meter.
So it is metered. is what you're saying. Okay,
It's metered on both.
all right. So Jason, you can edit.
What we don't have though is a way for the club and property owners to practice the proration of that amount of water.
I'm sorry, Jim, I can't hear you.
That created a problem, although,
I'd start over, Jim. I can't hear you.
okay. I don't know if the club is willing to let the property owners association use water that the club would be paying for if we change the policy. I don't know if the property owners care. The fact that it's free right now seems to me to be a problem.
But Jim, I think
it's sort of
that's an
giving it
issue
to somebody
between
else.
the POA and the club.
Yeah.
That's an issue between the POA and the
Well,
club.
the water usage isn't free to the club, because that's metered.
Not city.
So it's
Not a
only
city
the
issue.
ordinance
Correct.
that's messed up.
You're right.
We're doing it right in practice.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what James just said. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So
Didn't get all that.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Jason.
Good point there. Mr.
On
Oliver.
section, Again, we're under the consumer's responsibility on section H. This has to do with requests for water to be cut on and off. This kind of tightens that up a little bit. There's been kind of some loose fitting mishmash of policies and procedures kind of. But I'll just kind of added the hours of Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. That would be defined as normal business hours. And then weekend, holiday, and after normal business shut-off requests can be made by calling the police department non-emergency phone number. Do not call 911. Whenever possible, the homeowner should be home and present when water service is cut on to verify that there are no leaks. From time to time, we get requests from homeowners who would like to have their water cut on when they're not there. We're very hesitant to do that in the event that there's a leak, but we're adding some language here to try to accommodate them, but also put the homeowner on notice that if there is a leak, it falls on them, or we reserve the right to cut the water off, and I will continue. If a request is made to the city to cut on water service and the homeowner is not present, the city shall not be responsible for any damage or damages caused by water leaks. Additionally, if no one is home when the city cuts on water service, the city reserves the right to shut off water if the water meter continues to turn after 10 minutes to give indication that water is potentially free flowing within the home where there is a suspected leak. At this time, when one of our field guys goes out to the field, they cut the water on. If it doesn't stop, usually after about 10 minutes, that's a good indication that there's a leak. So we're just trying to tighten that language up so that if the homeowner comes home and they say, oh, why is not my water cut on? Well, we cut the water on, the meter did not stop turning, so we cut it off and we're not there. So again, most of the time, you hope that the homeowner is there, but we do get requests from time to time. I actually had a complaint fairly recently from a homeowner who wanted the water cut on, they weren't there. So we're trying to tighten that up. All requests by the customer for meter and our homeowner turn off after during normal weekend, holiday, and non-normal business hours shall be assessed a fee and the amount established by the city of Scott Valley City Council. I'll talk about that in a minute. I know time's ticking here, so we'll try to step it up a little bit, but
Can we make a suggestion?
yes.
You tell them not to call 911. Why don't you put the emergency number in there? So
We can add that. I think the reason I didn't do that is that if that number ever changed, we have to change it again, but it probably never will. We can have that. The next relevant item will probably be on meter reading, billings and collection. Again, we just talked about charges that are assessed by the city council. The next thing I really want to dive into, so we'll kind of step up, is the serve line. That is the majority of the red ink that you see there. And really what this does, I know we've had several conversations about serve line. The city is working through that process to bring that service online late this year, early next year. But essentially what this does is it removes the city's current leak adjustment policy, which is the one adjustment for every 5 years up to 50%. And it plugs in the language of the serve line as far as the customer responsibility, qualifying leaks, limitations. There, where you get one adjustment per calendar year, and it would be up to $2,500 if a customer participates. We'll talk about that a little more in the fee schedule. But again, this is really, it just talks about qualifying leaks. And I know this has been well discussed, but certainly if we have any questions, I'll try to answer those. And that is pretty much the gist of the water updates. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer those. Again, these are just discussion points.
Any
And,
questions from the council?
Before I ask a question, I just want to say that I had a chance to look this over for the meeting. And I think you did a great job
Thank you.
getting this all straightened out.
I appreciate
Appreciate it. By virtue of my own water leak experiences and by being here for 10 years, I've come to understand pretty well how it works and how it should work. But, again, that's occurred over a period of time. And I wonder if we have a package that we send to you home buyers setting out this information so they don't have to find out in the school of hard knocks like I did, how everything works. Or we just, is it enough?
Carrie can answer that.
We do. We have a new owner's packet. And it gives them some of the more beneficial information, the ordinances, that it gives. It pretty much covers just about anything in the importance, from trash pickup to dates and times, and tries to cover, like I said, just about anything.
Thank you. I didn't know we did that. That's great.
Any other questions or concerns or discussion? All right, well, do we want to move on to the next one, the solid waste ordinance?
Madam Mayor, this is another ordinance that we've had on the books for quite some time. It's been a while since it's been updated. But again, I'm going to try to quickly move on. I know we have our council meeting here soon, but really the intent here is to try to clean up some interpretational things and then just add some things. But one of the problems that we have in the city is that sometimes there's customers who either through using, for lack of a better word, cheap bags that tear or trash that gets scattered. A lot of times it falls to the city staff out of just good customer service to try to clean these up. Really, so we're going to try to address some things with that. But the city, one of the things we're looking to add is the city reserves the right to refuse collection of trash from customers whose bags are ripped or torn, or whose bags rip or tear during the action of trash collection by city personnel. As such, customers should use heavy-duty bags of a durable nature. Additionally, scattered or unbagged trash shall be the responsibility of the tenant or property owner to clean up and secure prior to the city picking up for collection. Any scattered or unbagged trash shall be subject to section 30-36D. I'll get to that in a second. So any questions about that? Again, we had problems from time to time where they'll try to take the bag. A lot of times it's with the in-ground stuff, because James is here, you might can add, but that's just time and effort, and that slows the process down, bags tear. And again, out of good customer service, our guys have had to take time to pick up that loose scattered trash, but it really shouldn't fall on city staff to do that. Customers really should be using, they shouldn't be overpacking their cans, they should be using durable bags that don't tear just from the simple action of taking off people's trash. So
Do we need to be more specific, like saying a 5 mil bag?
I think there's some language here, but again, I mean, I think durable, I mean, I don't want to just say common sense, but I mean, I know in the past I've bought some bags just you couldn't find, and I mean, I think most people know what a strong bag is or not, but if we needed to add something, we can certainly do that.
Because if we could prevent the problem from happening, we don't have to adjudicate between having the homeowner pick it up versus the city employees, and sometimes that doesn't happen. And I think it's supposed to be the building inspector that issues, warnings and stuff for that, but that's a cumbersome process.
Okay.
I'd like to get him out of that business.
Okay. The next section, which refers to the type of container systems, option 1, option 2. Option 1 is the traditional in-ground that a lot of homeowners have now. Just trying to clean up some language that the homeowner shall provide up to 2 in-ground containers. They shall have a capacity of not more than 32 gallons per container each. If a single container is used, it cannot be more than 64 gallons total. Of course, that's talking about the volume of the container that holds trash. And then no new in-ground containers should be allowed after the effective date of this ordinance. A lot of these in-ground, now some customers, they do keep their in-ground containers in good shape, but we do have a lot of in-ground containers in the city now that are in poor shape. They become nests for snakes and vermin and spiders and all kinds of nasty, creepy, crawly things that we subject our staff to just, and so and we're going to be talking about offering an incentive to the property owner to try to do away with that. Eventually, we would like to get where we're all using above ground containers. In a perfect world, it would be nice that everybody use the above ground containers that have the attachment that our trash truck can lift. And we're going to talk about that for a second here.
Jason, I thought years ago, when we first moved here, we bought 2 of them, put them in the ground. And shortly thereafter, I thought we got an email saying that they were going to ban them because it was tough on workers' backs, pulling that from below ground up. And my understanding they were bear proof, and we've had bears pulling right out of the ground too.
Well, I don't know, but this obviously, if this were brought before y'all with a more defined amendment that's ready to be voted on, it would in fact ban any future. Essentially, the grandfather in anybody that has an existing one, but any new property owner, somebody wants to build a house, they would not be able to put the in-ground cans in. Again, we're trying to hopefully one day get to where all above ground with that.
Jason, the only good thing about the in-ground system is that people don't have to get their trash cans out to the curb and then take them back in. And so a lot of the early homes were not designed with places to put big trash cans. A lot of our homes don't have garages. So there's that perennial urban problem of, how do you keep the trash cans from being unsightly around the home? Do you fence it? Do you have it out of sight? Do you make people keep it inside? So I think it's a good thing that we're grandfathering it in until we figure out how we're gonna, if we really want to do a transition, how we're gonna do that.
Good.
I think you're gonna find some of these homes with the steep driveways will have a hard time getting
Oh,
a trash
absolutely.
container
Yeah.
up and back.
Again, they would be allowed to have those, certainly if they need to do any repairs, but
Yeah.
you would not be allowed anybody to add new ones. That's the intent of this.
It's a problem we've been dealing with for 40 years, and
So let's keep.
I'm glad we're making a move to taking care of it.
Option 2 basically echoes option 1. Customers are encouraged to select option 2 upon selection. They shall be required to remove or otherwise make inoperative any existing in-ground containers. So if somebody wants to use Option two, they are encouraged to do away with the in-ground. Also, and I've talked with James about this, Public Works, upon request, the city, at no cost to the customer, may crush vacated and inoperable in-ground containers and fill in and cover with dirt, subject to city workload and staff availability. We have had some requests from property owners about, hey, we would love to do away with the in-ground, but what can we do? Probably that would be great in wintertime projects. But certainly, we do have the ability. It'd be easier to crush them down. You start pulling them out of the ground, they snag on underground utilities, can cause problems, but we could, we have a homeowner now that we're working with that has requested us to crush those cans down, bring in some dirt, cover it up. And so that is something, I think, again, to try to incentivize anybody that would like to do away with their in-ground cans. The city would like to work with them to do that. So,
James, how would they crush the cans? Is there?
With the backhoe bucket,
With-
just
okay.
mash them down.
There you go.
Put dirt in them, then mash them down,
Okay,
and then we'll put dirt on top. And then we'll, seed it, whatever we need to do, like, and they are issues like Bruce was talking about, with the backs and stuff, for people, if they're like my wife, they're gonna overstuff the.
wait a minute.
And I've caught people out here trying to get in the can with foot stone, the bag down in the can. And then you have to try to get that out of there, and eventually somebody like that, it will be working competition eventually.
Chief Estes.
Yes, ma'am. Going on what Jim said, James just said, if you mash them flat, can they do something so that they can put their rolling cans there? Because one of the problems, I mean, every day almost, we're dragging cans out of the road because people put them right on the edge. And if you go down Ridgepole, you know who I'm talking about. They're always in the road.
Yeah.
And we wind up having to drag them out of the road because they roll them down there and they crash them and they tip over. Or the wind will blow, or raccoons will flip them over, and they're in the roads, and we've had several people complain that they've almost ran over them. But just trying to see if we can get them out of the road, or would that area where those cans are be, you think, far enough away to keep that from
We
happening?
can in certain areas, but some of them, like Ridgepole, they go over like behind bushes.
Yeah, but anything's better than what we got right now, because they're in the road a lot of times.
Or put brakes on our Herbie Kirby's.
That might work.
Thank
Thank you.
You're to go to home, and safety
Do-
needs to be installed, the home on safety.
Do we have a problem with people putting trash just out on the side of the road in plastic bags?
Oh,
we had a customer, it's my understanding, James, I don't think it was trash, it was more yard debris, but they put 30 bags out, 30 bags, and the city picked them up. And I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. But, yeah, but,
That sounded like us when we
Yeah, we
cleaned up the
did.
leaves, right?
yes, it did.
55.
Yes, it did.
On the recycling, are you finished with that?
Well, I haven't gotten there yet. From my understanding, there's really never really been anything added in their trash or solid waste ordinance that talks about the recycling bins. So I felt it was important to add that. We've had some questions in the past about what is a recycling bin, the size, whose can be used, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to add this, and again, this is for discussion points. Customers are allowed one recyclable bin per household. The maximum size for recyclable bin is 14 gallons. Now that's a traditional, the industry standard. Customers may use their own recyclable bin or may request one from the city subject to city availability. We do have a few. If a customer needs one, they can request one from the city. If you have one, as long as it meets those dimensional standards, you can use your own, that's fine. But again, the city does have a few. The city shall not be required to pick up the contents of more than one approved recyclable bin. Overfilled recyclable bins are bins that spill recyclable material during the action of collection by the city a recycled material left adjacent to a full recyclable bin shall not be picked up. This is an issue we do have from time to time. People will bring 3 bins worth of recyclable material. And that's great, that people want to recycle, but we are limited on the space and what we can take in as a reason why we have 1 bin. And of course, we do have to pay to haul that off, so we do have customers from time to time that they'll even, I guess they've even rigged up ways they can
Yeah, they'll put their cardboard on the sidewalk.
create walls where, I mean, you'll have,
You know, we only have 1 recycle truck and it's got a certain amount of it on it. We got more people in here than we did a year, 2 years ago. Get on the truck filling up. I mean, we got to eat here at lunchtime. When they come in for lunch, we have to look at their bag of lunch bottles, plastics and stuff like that, where they can be wrapped. You know, they get separate. I mean, there's so much of it. You know.
So your workers delineate the various recyclables.
So,
Okay.
yeah. And we are having issues too on washing the beans, you know, washing stuff over the side. Or it. Pretty nice.
You might want to add that.
That is a requirement.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, what can our homeowners do with cardboard? Because you don't want it in the compactor, right?
We take ours down to,
Well, I know that's an option, but I'm just suggesting that, to me, the recycling, if you can stick it in the back of the recycle bin, you should do that.
Pick up one cardboard there, a long time ago, I had to take my truck, and take a full truckload of cardboard back. One house, like somebody just moved in, they would put it all that there. Yeah, just too much.
and again, a lot of this is
Not saying it's a bad thing, if people recycle, I'm saying, just, we don't have the,
Capacity.
no.
costs are going up, everything's going up, we have to pay to carry that off to be disposed of. And when customers are putting more than their share, the city's having to incur that cost with additional recycled materials.
Is that a problem just since the COVID, when we've had more people in Sky Valley, or is that?
More deliveries.
occurring every day? Okay.
But remember, I guess initially the thought was the recycling saves us on the tipping fees, because we're not having, it's not included in. So originally, when I think it was proposed and accepted, our cost of
Yeah, recycle stuff.
Catching it.
Like I said, where there's so much of it, we're having to send separate trucks there.
Sometimes they're doing 2 and 3 deliveries, that's time away that they can't, the guys can't do other things, that's obviously wear and tear and gas, so there's incidental and direct cost, but still cost to the city nonetheless when people are, I don't want to use the word abusing, but they're recycling more than what we're kind of set up to accommodate.
Fair enough, and I agree, you need to get something in the solid waste, but we may also want to look at if the truck is not big enough, are there tools out there that we should be looking at so that you can do it all in one trip instead of 2 trips? So throw that out as
Put the trailer up to it. Another thing too, under special collections, I'm gonna, some of the multi-family stuff is just it kind of just, we talked about that on the other options, so I'm gonna, nothing really there earth shattering. Special collections, this is, I want to talk about some things that we see. I talked a minute ago about, we had a homeowner, I believe, James, they had 30 bags of material. And that's really getting to the extreme. We did not charge for that. It's my understanding to pick all those bags up. So any property owner design special bulk, obviously that would be considered bulk collection. tree trimmings and bagged yard waste not in closed containers and picked up on a regularly scheduled trash day as defined in section 3021. We'll get to that in a second. Are tied in bundles or heavy-duty bags as defined in section 3030. Again, anybody that wants to get a copy of this, we can send this out. If sufficient manpower and equipment is available, city personnel are authorized to make such special collections, provided the person making the request agrees to pay for the labor and equipment used as the rate specified by the city council of Sky Valley. Again, we have a lot of, we talk about heavy duty bags in section C. Again, we're all about customer service, but the guys are really spending an exorbitant amount of time picking up a lot of trash and special collections that is cost to the city, but we're really not recovering that cost above what we would, what the coverage should cost.
You got a lot of people that abuse the chipping stuff, you know, when I say abuse, you go out there and run a chipping route, which is all the way through the city, you know, 28 miles. A lot of times you get out there.
James, could you maybe,
You know, you get out there and there'll be a small handful, you know, you got a stock truck. And you get out there, you know, a lot of it's dead stuff, it could have been just pitched off the woods, it's, you know what I'm saying? No, we don't mind, that ain't what we're saying, but you know, it might be, you know, 5 or 6 sticks laying on the edge of the road, you know, we got to stop and get for the mower to come through. You know, stuff like that, you know, and then you come up to another one and it'll feel like a whole wall right there, you know. Now that we keep up with the time and we turn that into City Hall and they charge for that. But a lot of it is, I mean, a lot of it they're using it, you know. I mean, I do feel that. I mean, Jason discussed it and everything, because I mean, sometimes it takes 2 days to get all the chipping done, and that's 3 or 4 men out there chipping. You know, that we could be doing other things, you know. It has to be done, and we want it to look good, and we have to move it before the mowers can come through.
How would we mediate that?
we would just have to probably have another conversation of that in the future. Again, these are just talking points,
Right.
just to, again, I just want to stress anybody in the audience or anybody that may be watching on Zoom, these are just some things that we have found in day-to-day, the challenges, I don't want to say problems, but challenges. As we're always looking at the budget, always looking at city expenses, these are things that we are finding from an expenditure standpoint. It adds up. And so, again, that's why we're bringing this to you all. Again, I just want to emphasize, nothing's being done today. This is just discussion points.
And I'd like to ask James a question if I might.
Yes, sir.
James, I know that you guys chip a lot of that. What do you do with those wood chips?
We used to put them up on top behind the chapel. Steve Mason would put it up here and he would sell it to different people.
Okay.
Or for customer request, they can call City Hall, the city will deliver a load for, I think it's 25 or $30 for a load.
Okay. What about stuff that's too big to chip? You don't pick that up at all?
No. And if it's like now, if a tree comes down on the right of way, we do pick that up and we haul it off. We have a dump site next to the shop down there. We dump it.
Steve Mason may take it, Tony,
Okay.
if you have logs or whatever, because, you know, he sells wood.
If
If
it's
you want to
firewood
get rid
or
of it, he
something,
may
you know,
come and
somebody-
get it.
Steve Mason usually takes it and stuff like that. I'll call him and he'll bring his truck and we'll put the back.
But otherwise, there's no provision in Sky Valley for a homeowner to take anything directly to a dump location
No.
other than the county's location.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I appreciate too that some of these things are short-term solutions. And I think the long-run solution is to look for opportunities to increase our capacity to the extent that our citizens need to have more recycles taken care of, or a little more garbage taken care of. I don't know. To the extent that we pursue growth in the future, that's also a reason to keep looking for ways that we can increase our capacity.
Jason, due to time restraints, can we just stop our discussion about the ordinances?
I was just fixing to say, Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
after this,
Yeah,
we
'cause
we may want to
I think we need to go to item
Table.
8.
revisit the fee schedule
Right.
for another day.
Yes,
I
sir.
know we're,
I think that'd be great, because that's gonna be a,
and especially in light of the smarter technology presentation you have,
right.
obviously, when a lot of this was done,
Mhm.
this was done prior to them coming in, so it may be more appropriate to
Yeah,
revisit the fees and some,
right.
as we know more about what we want to do with
So,
that.
so let's move to item 8 to discuss legal options considering the abandoned dilapidated houses. Jason, if you just give us a quick history of this particular issue that we're going to discuss.
Madam Mayor, we do have an aging housing stock. We have a few homes in the city that they're not used very frequently. Some are actually abandoned. We have a couple of homes that are in disrepair. Namely, there's one in the Peak and Peak area, one in the Sugar Bush area. We'll just leave it at that. And we've had complaints, concerns from adjacent neighbors about these houses. We do have a house now, there's a tree on top of the house. We've been trying to work with this property owner. It's my understanding the city's been trying to work with this property owner for years. And now we've kind of sent out a little more ratcheted up letter, giving them 30 days to try to make some kind of good faith effort. However, I think it is important to talk about some of the processes that we may need to do if the homeowner is either unwilling or not in a position to make some kind of change. So that's the talking points here for this. And I know our council's here, but there are some options, particularly with the Sugar Bush home. We have given this homeowner 30 days to answer the charge, to try to come up with a plan or at least something to move forward in addressing the problem. If they do not do that, then obviously we could cite them, they go for the judge. And ultimately, there are a couple of options the city has. If we were to tear down the structure, if it was condemned, we could recoup some of our costs for doing that in the materials. This one particular home has been gutted. It's probably full of mold and rot. There probably wouldn't be a lot of value there. The second option would be, certainly we could place some type of lien on the property. Particularly this home, from a value standpoint, I don't know what the value of the lot would be. Probably the value is going to be in the water tap in the existing septic system. It's kind of in a hole, there's no views. But there are some options, just have to see to take those measures, and I'm going to kind of stop there. I don't know if you want to add anything, Doug, or
Are the properties up to date on their taxes to the city?
they are.
So if they pay the taxes, they just won't take care of the property. The homeowners, they had contact with the city, and then do they give excuses, or do they just not contact the city at all?
I believe one of the homeowners, he will do the absolute minimum to kind of perpetuate the problem, but I don't think what I mean by that is he will answer a letter, he'll return a phone call eventually. I'm gonna get up there, I'm gonna do something eventually, and then that kind of brings the tension down a little bit, and then as time moves on, it's revisited. And it seems to be a pattern of, I'm gonna get there eventually. The other home, the gentleman is an elderly gentleman, and he's actually sent a letter to the city saying that he would like to give the property to the city. He did not provide any contact information beyond his physical address. I have sent that homeowner a letter asking either for a return call or provide a phone number so I could call him to let him know there's a process. We would certainly like to go inside the home. I don't know what kind of value that home on Peak and Peak, nobody's been in it for 15 years, but he has been paying the taxes every year.
Pays the utilities and the taxes every year. Yeah.
And Jason, there's a property on Tahoe, and I'm looking to see, because last year I'd made a list and it was on there, and I can't remember if I had an address where there was the post was gone. But the pond on Tahoe, I think it's just past it. And it doesn't look like anybody's been there in a long time. There's a truck that sits there that doesn't look like it's been moved in a long time. I'll get that
I
information.
think I know you're talking, it's got a very ruddy driveway.
Yes.
I think I know you're talking about.
Doug, so just a lien is about all our weapons that we have.
Now, you have a couple different ones. Are the issues on the property such that they are like a safety hazard to the community?
I
Could you
think-
say
The,
that?
the house on Sugar Bush, I haven't been inside, I've been to the property. At one time, I think it was exposed, the deck has been taken off. I think maybe some measures have been done, maybe to nail some doors where people can't get in and out, but it's my understanding all the plumbing, the brass, the wire, anything of any value has been taken out. And I think there's a lot of stuff being stored. I see our chief, can you add
You want
anything?
the, like, multi-level one that's
Yeah.
kind of down low?
Yeah.
We find people sneaking in there and living.
Yeah.
You find what?
It's two
Living in the
seventy-five
squatters.
east.
We have found squatters in there before.
So there's drug
That's where
use,
the
things
squatter
like
that was
that.
on Tahoe and all the
Could be.
timeshares was ultimately, one of the places he was ultimately camping. So, yeah, we've had some issues.
Okay, I mean, there are state statutes that if you can declare it a nuisance, if there are people squatting and, using drugs, if it's a drug house or that sort of thing, the city would be authorized to go over there and could, well, once you've gone through the legal process, you could actually tear the structure down.
But that would be at our expense.
It would be at your expense.
Okay.
Now, if it's just like overgrown weeds and things of that nature, there's also a statute that allowed the city to come on the property, clean up the property, place a lien on the property, foreclose on the lien, that sort of stuff. To do that, you could go that route. You could cite them and have them come to court and, the judge would ultimately decide what to do, but it could either fine them or, basically issue an order to clean up. And if they don't, they could possibly be put into jail. So, you can take the criminal route on that way too.
Yeah, we just talk about the one on Sugar Bush in terms of options. We know it's abandoned. We know it's in very bad shape. It's been stripped. It's been stripped. I don't know the owners, what kind of, where they are financially, but could we put them on notice, either tear it down or we're going to tear it down and then we're going to sue you for the cost of tearing it down?
Yeah, that's the squatter house, is that right?
Yeah.
No,
Yes, yes,
It is.
the one with the tree on the side. of it?
yeah.
No, it's not the big one in the hole.
That's the same.
Yeah,
one.
same one.
Same
That
one.
you're talking
It's the one we're talking about
Oh,
on Sugar Bush.
It's 275 east.
Yeah, that would be, you would notify them that, look, here are all the issues with the property. You need to do something within 30 days or let's get started on it. If not, we're going to declare the nuisance. There's a legal process that we have to go through to do
Doug,
that. but-
I understood that there's multiple entities as far as ownership of that property. And I don't know if that's something that's compounded our capability of moving forward with it.
What do you mean by that?
Several owners, a lot of people. It's not
Well, it's
just
easy to
one
find out
entity.
who owns it.
We've been sending letters to the owner on record from the
Okay.
assessor site. Now, this last letter, it's ramped up expectations, I
This
think.
is certified.
I think, I don't know if it's started, I'll find that out. Alyssa and Bob sent that letter out, but it's my understanding in the past, it's been more of a, you really need to do something. Now it's more of, you've got to do something or else. So, we're definitely stepping up what needs to be done because, it's going a long way.
What about the other house, about the gentleman who just wants to give it up and wants to deed it to the city? Is that something the city would be interested in?
I know we've had some conversations outside of, in passing, Bob and I, Bob Powers, our inspector, have talked about the house. One of the things Bob had said is that we would really like, before we did anything, as far as going to the extreme of accepting the home, maybe go in and just inspect it. Nobody's been in the home 15 years. If you, just from a drive-by inspection, you can see where the The chimney is kind of pulled away from the wall, outer wall. It's kind of buckled a little bit. You would have to imagine that it's probably some type of infestation. You know, we don't know if it would be a nice fixer up. It's a cute home. I mean, you can see it, but
It may have a lot of
obviously,
structural
yeah,
issues.
15 years of nobody being there, but I've sent the gentleman a letter. I'm going to follow up with another one. The first letter was not certified. I didn't want to spend the money just from the fact that he seemed to be agreeable from his previous letter, but it's been about 30 days, 45 days, so I think I'm going to send him I'll go ahead and spend the money, send a certified letter. I'd hope that he would have responded. But there is a process, obviously, if we were to take this. We can't just take a letter saying, here's yours. I mean, there's a process beyond that we would need to have some conversation, but we would like to at least go in and look at it. I know Bob had some concerns about the structural integrity of the porch, so I know, and I'll stop there for the sake of
It's a
time.
nice location. Mr. Fenwick,
Can I add two things?
$5.
Okay, regarding the Sugar Bush house, I walked by the other day and I was shocked. I saw that. Frankly, if I lived downhill from this house, I know there's houses that are downhill, I would consider that tree to be imminent danger. I mean, something happens, who knows, with the rain and wind and what have you, it could roll off that house and roll down the hill. So something to consider.
Yeah.
Well,
The other thing I wanted to say is that in other places I've lived, if there are code violations at the house, the city typically goes through the process. They don't get fixed, then the daily fines begin to accrue. Eventually, they get to the point where the city then has a substantial lien and can deal with it. That takes time, but that's how I've seen it done elsewhere.
We've had conversations, James and I, about the legal liabilities of it. We just went in and cut the tree to get it off the house. Because we have had those concerns. The second thing, as far as liens are great and all, but that property only has so much value. You can lien something to the point where it just stays in a forever lien. Obviously, it's.
But that's why I was asking if we could not put a lien, just sue the owners for our costs.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, I mean, the statute would allow, if we went in and cleaned it up, whatever our costs would be the lien on the property, then you'd have to foreclose on that lien. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if Karen knows the answer to this, but there is a house on Ridgepole, just as you're going up on the right, that's been abandoned for a long time. It looks like it has I don't know if it looks like the county has put up a sign, I guess to repossess it for back taxes. We don't know about that.
I personally don't know.
We do know. I know that.
You remember it used to have the tree on it?
Yeah,
Well, when we started trying to contact them about that tree, Elisa was told that it was tied up in an estate.
Right.
And that's as far as we got. We never got a response or anything about getting the tree off the house. The answer was always, it's tied up in an estate. And that's the only information we could ever get. Did you ever get anything else? No.
are you talking
Yeah.
about Ridgepole or Sugar Bush?
Ridgeville right
Oh,
here.
okay.
The first one on the right, where the tree was laying across. It's gone now. The tree's gone now. But there was a tree on it at one time.
That are still crumpled.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one.
Tim and I last year went in there and cleaned it up because it was such an eyesore as you're going up Ridgepole. But, I would see if we can investigate and find out what's going on as far as.
I think this has to do with taxes and this owner doesn't pay the tax. Then we go to the courthouse, sell the house, and then that owner has a year to pay the back taxes, and they do. So this has gone on about 4 times now, I think is what Alyssa told me. So
Okay.
I don't know if there's a statute of limitation, how many times they can do this, but I think that's what's going on. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it does, but it's still a nuisance and we
Yeah.
should be advising them that somebody needs to go in there, clean up the area and replace it's got a gutter that's been
damage.
disarray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anything else that we need to talk about or ask Doug about?
But I have time on this one, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I think it's, we're gonna have to, I'm gonna ask for a motion for adjournment because we've got another meeting starting very soon. Do I have a, thank you, Jim, second?
Second.
Thank you, Ed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, this, so end of the meeting.
I'll beat you.
I'll send a little note here so I get out of here. That anybody on Zoom, the council meeting may start a couple minutes late. Bathroom break, but we'll be up shortly.
Okay.